Hello and welcome in to another edition of Rapid Recap. I am Greg Smith, Senior Recruiting Analyst here at Inside Nebraska, and I am joined by Steve Marik, staff writer and football extraordinaire. Steve, how are you after this, I guess, lightning round of Matt Rhule on a Wednesday? That feels weird.
Yeah, it's I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Greg. But yeah, another Rule presser in the book. These things have been more information loaded than the previous staff with Scott Frost on
Yeah.
those on
Well, yeah.
those like final press conference days before the game. Matt Rhule usually just lays it all out there for us. Scott really didn't talk much during those. They lasted usually, I don't know, 3 to 4 minutes.
Yes.
And we have Rule going now for 15, 20 minutes sometimes. Today was a little bit shorter, I think, but I
Yeah.
think everybody kind of understands what's going on this week. So we need to
Yeah,
get it out.
it's also a thing too where he and Rule noted that they hadn't practiced yet today, so like they didn't have like all of the information that they would normally have. So I think that he was and then we just kind of pull the curtain back. We had been told by the SID that he had a lot of appointments and things going on today, and so like that just felt like I feel like there was a lot going on, and that's why we didn't get as much time as normal with Coach Rhule. But before we dive into Coach Rhule, let's jump into something, a couple of things that happened yesterday. Yesterday, on Tuesday, we got both coordinators, a handful of players. I guess, what was your big takeaway from yesterday, since we didn't get a chance to talk about that on video yesterday?
My big takeaway yesterday was, so on Monday we talked with Matt Rhule, and Matt Rhule was clearly ticked off. He was clearly upset about his team's performance on Saturday against number 2 Michigan. Got blown out 45-7. Matt Rhule used the word ridiculous to describe his team's performance. Yep. Tony White said the same thing on Tuesday, and I thought that was pretty telling. That nobody inside of the football program is okay what happened Saturday, and that's dealing with, like, that's talking with the players as well as the coaches too. So there, and considering that the coaches, Matt Rhule wanted them to fully pad up and have a full go practice on Sunday, the day after getting beat up by the second team in the country. That's telling. That's telling us that Matt Rhule is serious about turning this thing around and just making a statement to his guys saying, what happened yesterday will not happen again. It will never happen again. So I think that was pretty telling. And listening to the coaches talk afterwards, Tony White used the word ridiculous as well. For his defense's performance. I just think this staff is serious about turning things around and knocking all the losing that these guys have in their bodies, basically, from spending 3, 4, 5 seasons here, trying to knock that out and make them forget about that and try to make them play fast, confident, play loose. Don't worry about making a mistake. If you do make a mistake, make it going 100 miles an hour.
I think I'm exactly with you on that. All of that. I think that was the big key takeaway from yesterday. I think it was the key. It's been the key takeaway of the week, right? Is that there's a sense of urgency, and it has been. This has been a thing, I think, since Matt Rhule was hired. Really, this push pull of wanting to say, "Hey, be patient." And this is how Matt Rhule builds his programs, kind of brick by brick. Like, he talks about the solid foundation, and foundations are built on concrete and all of that. He uses a lot of construction metaphors, and he is correct in how he likes to build his program. And I think, though, people heard that so much that they really started to believe that this staff would have kind of a laid back attitude as far as winning right away or making a certain standard right away. And man, that couldn't be further from the truth. I think that I know for sure after the Tony White press conference yesterday, I put the video of that into your quick hits from the day and said, hey, if anybody thinks that these guys don't have a sense of urgency and want to win right now and perform better, like, you're just not paying attention, because there's just no other real way to describe it. Because you hear Tony White yesterday, and it was as angry as we've heard him in a post-game press conference. Like, we've seen some different stuff with Tony White. We've seen him kind of out of breath, running around, really sweaty. Yeah. We've seen him kind of really energetic and pretty in a really good mood. But we have not seen him that angry. I think that was a really good sign. And I think that one final thing to note from yesterday is that I thought it trickled over to the players as well. I thought that they kind of had matter of fact, business-like approach, a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. Ben Scott talked about how, the team, it was an angry team. I think Phelan Sanford said that, that padded up practice, guys had some stuff to get off of their chest, and it was needed. So I'm very curious to see how that all translates to the game on Friday. But I do think that it's definitely worth noting that that's been the vibe around the program all week.
Yeah, Ben Scott was mad up there. I mean, he
Yeah.
was ticked off. He didn't want to talk
So
about
was
it.
Nash Hutmacher. I should
for
call
sure.
that out too. Yeah.
Nash
Yeah.
never wants to talk, but he's gracious with his time and gives us a little something. But yeah, those guys are pissed off, and I think that we're gonna get. Everybody's kind of wondering where's the juice, like where's the energy going to come on Friday. You got to bring your own juice, bring your own electricity, all that type of stuff. And I don't think that's going to be a problem personally for this team after what they did on Saturday and how the coaching staff react, making them practice on Sunday, which Ben Scott was kind of funny. He's like, somebody asked Ben Scott if he had ever practiced the day after a game. And he's like, no, not once in my life. And then he went on to say, I didn't like it, but you got to do what you got to do. And I think this team understands that they needed that Sunday practice. And I don't know, they're going into the different Memorial Stadium in Big Ten West in Champaign. And I don't know, I think they're going to bring juice. They're going to bring energy. And I think it's going to be a good performance from Huskers. That's just what my gut is telling me.
Yeah, I'm in the same spot. But one thing that'll definitely help Nebraska bring some juice during that game on Friday night is having their kind of star freshman Cam Lenhart back. And Matt Rhule, maybe the most important thing Matt Rhule said today in his press conference was that Cam Lenhart will be back and playing in this football game on Friday. That's a huge boost for a pass rush that is looking to get back on track. Having another threat out there on the field is always helpful. And as you've kind of noted, because I know you've been deep into Illinois football, that offensive line can be had.
It's not very good right now. They remind me of Nebraska's offensive line. Yeah. So in the run game, they're inconsistent. In the pass protection, they're inconsistent. Quarterback Luke Altmaier has been sacked 20 times. The Illini's O-line have allowed 20 sacks, which is really bad. It's the most in Big Ten Conference. I just think this is a great opportunity for Tony White's defense, Terrence Knighton's defensive front to really just get back in the swing of things and start asserting your dominance. And this is a great team to do it against because it's just I haven't seen a lot of consistency there with Illinois' run block and pass block. There's a lot of opportunities. It's a golden opportunity for guys like Cam Lenhart to get back on the field. And get in the backfield, penetrate, just raise havoc back there. Nash Hutmacher, he was one of the guys that did actually get to JJ McCarthy against Michigan a little bit too late. McCarthy got the ball off, but he was actually one of the guys that got back there. Principal Uman Yellen was another one who won his one-on-one.
Yeah, he had a couple real nice reps.
Tackle. He was very close to getting there, but did not get home in time. McCarthy had let the ball off, so. This is not Michigan's offensive line is what I'm trying to say. There will be plenty of opportunities in pass downs for the pass rush. They'll just have an opportunity to get home and kind of raise some havoc. So I'm kind of excited to see how they respond from that Michigan game, the defense especially, and that defensive front, because if they can stop the ball, stop the run that Illinois has tried to do. Illinois is not very good at running the football. I think it's going to be a good day for the Huskers.
Yeah, I think that it's a really good opportunity because, Illinois is not a great offense. They're dangerous enough to hurt you if you're kind of undisciplined and you're playing like uninspired football. Like, don't get me wrong. You're not just going to walk out there, just show up and walk all over them. But if Nebraska, I would say it this way, if Nebraska plays with the level of intensity that we saw against Minnesota, basically for all 4 quarters, and that first half, especially against Colorado, then they'll be set up for a really, really nice day. Then I'm glad you mentioned Prince William and Yellen, because I think that he's another guy that Matt Rhule shouted out today that, is as people say, is on the come, right? Like he's on his way to being a really good player here. Matt Rhule also mentioned quite a few other like young players and freshmen that he thinks are going to be good. And this is speaking of a kind of a broader theme within the program. This is something that Matt Rhule has been fairly consistent about really since I would say publicly since fall camp. We had talked about about this before then because I've been hearing behind the scenes that they were very happy with that freshman group, and they thought that freshman group was even better than what they thought, particularly on the defensive line and the offensive line. We're just not seeing those offensive linemen because you're just not going to see true freshman offensive linemen in the Big Ten very often.
That's tough,
unless you've got like some sort of like incredible freak that is coming through. It's just not going to happen. That's why it's so incredible that you have two of them on the defensive line that are playing really solid snaps, because you just so rarely see that. But Matt Rhule said that, again, guys like Riley Van Poppel played a lot in the game against Michigan. He said that he looked like he wasn't getting knocked back and he looked like he belonged out there. To my eye, watching it live, that is true. I don't know how it looked when you watch the film back. That sometimes could tell a different story. He mentioned Sua Lefutu, who has gotten some time here and there as well. He said that Vincent Carroll Jackson, another true freshman from out east, will travel to this game against Illinois. So those guys are coming along. And then those freshman receivers as well. He made a joke before somebody could say it about how, he knows that he's asked all the time about what those guys could do to get out there, but he thinks that they still have bright futures, and then said that Jalen Doss will actually end up playing this week as well. We'll see how that goes. At least we know that he's going to travel. We've been talking about that. Again, pull the curtain back. We've been talking about, we're wanting to kind of track and take a look at when these coaches that are here now mention these young players or mention certain guys and say, oh yeah, they're right on the cusp of playing. Do they actually play? Jaden Doss is definitely one of those guys now that I want to see if he actually plays after being shouted out by Matt Rhule. But it's good and it's great, actually. I'm not going to say it's not good. It's great for the future of the program that Matt Rhule seems to be calling out so many young players by name as guys that are going to help them in the future.
Jaden Doss is the big one because everybody knows about Nebraska's wide receiver room and how lacking of playmakers it is. It's just not good right now. It needs more juice. It needs more energy. It needs more playmakers. And we think Jaden Doss from Raymore Peculiar High School, Missouri. Greg, you went and watched him a couple times. You visited practice. He's a talented cat, 5'11", 190 pounds. He can do, at least in high school, he did a lot of different things. He played in the slot. He played outside. He played in the backfield. He was taking some handoffs in the traditional run game. He was taking handoffs on jet sweeps as a slot guy. And then he was just your normal receiver. I think that he can play. Now he's coming off a broken arm. We've heard several different injuries with Jaden Doss. First it was a hand, then it was an arm. So I don't know. Whatever it is, he's back and practicing, and according to Matt Rhule, might play on Friday at Illinois. So we'll see if that actually comes true. I hope it does, because I'm sure Marcus Satterfield wants him out there. From everything we've heard with the coaches, Jaden Doss, the true freshman, is very, very talented and can play, or at least help the defense out right now. And the offense needs as much help as it can get, especially in that pass game.
They need as many playmakers as they can get out there, as many threats as they can get. And by the way, another guy, and I just get thinking about this, is that you need another guy that you're going to build the program around moving forward as well. The earlier he can get up and running and be, at least out there, is the better it'll be, because he can take a jump then next season after you've got a lot of film. Who knows what he'll do this season, but it's also it's a weird balance, like we said, about kind of balancing out trying to make a bowl game right now, and they definitely want to do that, but also getting these guys ready for the future to when they're able to contend for a conference championship and stuff like that down the road. It starts with getting your guys their feet wet out there. And so he's definitely a guy that people should be excited to see out there. Now, before we get out of here, Steve, I want to get your thoughts, because we've got you leave here in a couple days to go out to Champaign. And so it'll be a weird Friday night game. Before we get out of here, I want to know from you, what do you got as a key to the game for the Huskers this week?
So after watching so much Illinois football the past 24 hours, I can tell you that there has to be opportunities with Nebraska's defensive front against Illinois' pass protection and run game. I think that there are plays out there to be had for the Huskers, the D-line, the linebackers, the safeties. I think Tony White is going to dial up some exotic blitzes.
I think he'll be more aggressive this game. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So Nebraska had, I think it was 14 sacks the first 3 games of the season. nothing the past two against Louisiana Tech and Michigan. Now there's different reasons for that. Louisiana Tech runs a air raid offense. They get the ball out of the quarterback's hand very quick. Michigan is Michigan, just a better team. Nebraska wasn't good enough to get to JJ McCarthy. But this game, Illinois, this offensive line, this leaky offensive line, I can see some plays being made. So my key to the game, if Nebraska can get in the backfield, penetrate in the backfield, cause some havoc, stop that run game, and make Luke Altmaier, their quarterback, win the game, beat Nebraska himself with his arm, I think that's what you want to do. So if Nebraska can stop the run and put the game in Luke Altmaier's arms, I think that's good for the Huskers.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think I would go to the other side of the ball with Nebraska's offense. I think that Illinois is a team that I think that they can be had on defense. I know their pass defense is not very good, but I actually look towards the run defense, which is not nearly as good as it was last year either. And I think that if Nebraska can have more consistency on the ground, especially on first down, I think that if they're going to be a team, and I feel like they have been this season, a team that runs the ball the majority of the time on first down, then they need to have more success on first down to sort of set up more of those second and manageables, to open up more of the playbook, that then even if you don't get it on that second down, you've got a third and manageable where you can either run or pass, or you have a short run and you can pick up that third down, keep that clock moving. Because I do anticipate kind of an ugly Big Ten West classic game. Picking up those third downs and looking to their third down percentage at the end of the game will tell a big part of this story, how you help that, doing better on first down with that run game. So I think if Nebraska can do that, I think that they'll be in really good shape. And I do think that, going back to, and I'm stealing this directly from you, so shouts to you, going back to some of the things that Illinois' defense has put on film and defending the option, I think that Nebraska will have opportunities with that as well, especially considering Harburg has done, I think, a very good job of running the ball on those. We joke a lot about him not pitching it. I still think he's going to pitch one of those and it's going to bust for like a 70-yard touchdown from the running back. But I do think that they can have some success in that way too. So I just look for Nebraska's overall ground game to see what they do this week, because I think that's going to be a huge key to the game.
For sure. And getting back to your option comment, Illinois' defense, like you said, Greg, has struggled with the option, that read run with the between quarterbacks and running backs. Just go back and watch the games. They've been hurt in really big moments by that play specifically. The defense, I think, is still working, trying to get their foot after Ryan Walters left and took some staff members with him. So some of the same guys are back for Illinois on that defensive front, but it just does not look like last year. They look not well coached. Maybe that's too harsh, but they're
out of sorts.
Defense out of sorts. Same guys, but different results, and that's good for if you're a Husker fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's going to do it for us on today's episode of Rapid Recap. Make sure that you like this video. Tell a friend about it as well. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get these videos directly into your feed. Steve and Zach will be boots on the ground out in Champaign this Friday for kind of a interesting, as Steve has termed, weird Friday night game.
Always is.
In Champaign. It always is. So I'm expecting at least a little bit of wacky action out there. But we'll have full coverage as well over at Inside Nebraska. Also, big volleyball weekend as well. So Jeff Ekstrom will definitely have full coverage of that too, as Nebraska has Michigan and Michigan State this weekend in a couple of huge games. And we will catch you guys later.